Well, hello, welcome back. This video is, I want to do an update for some of the features that I've added in, as well as show a new scenario and some new features that have been added in to support the scenario. Um, uh, so let's just go at it. So there is a new version out on the Google Drive link. It does have all these changes. I did fix a few bugs as well. Um, so hopefully those of you that are still looking at creating missions and stuff, the mission should work a little better now. So let's go into some of the more the features. I did get a request to add in the ability to easily get the uh, I don't know, user scenarios that I've been writing. And so what I've done is on the essentially attached to this installer is a directory of templates. And those templates can be used to give you a starting point for your scenarios. So, so in our main on our main menu, now you have this empty sandbox, which you've always had. Kind of changed a little bit of the nomenclature here just to make it a little clearer. So you could start in an empty sandbox where you have to do all the work, or you could start a template. If you create after you create a mission, you can then organize it in directories. So as you notice, I have a second, fifth, sixth, and seventh. But in my templates, you'll notice that I've now created ones from all 5 games. So now it lists all of the scenarios that you can use, and to make it nice and easy, right? So if I were to add new scenarios or add updates to the existing scenarios, it would only update the template files and it wouldn't update any of your files that you've created. So it won't overwrite anything that you've started, any any scenarios. So it's kind of a cool method to do that, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm gonna bring up this Battle of the Atlantic scenario. And when it does a new feature, it'll go ahead and name it, the name of the scenario plus a timestamp, so that you'll easily know that next time you look at that scenario or next time you bring open um, the tool, you'll see that directory structure, or you'll see that scenario listed in your scenarios. So which and then you can just continue on from that. So we'll let this load, and then I'll kind of orient you to this scenario. This one is one of the larger scenarios in Third Fleet for the North Atlantic. I think I'm about done with the um, kind of creating small scenarios. So what I'd like to do now is create all the large scenarios from all the games. So that's my next mission. So I'll pretty much be adding in probably all of the big grand strategic missions from each of the scenarios, kind of full forces and stuff. So I'll give you guys some small scenarios and some larger scenarios to pick from. Okay, so another big change that you may have noticed is now I am keeping. So what I noticed is that I had the stack menu. Notice here on the upper right hand corner, you got like the list of the items in that particular hex. So now essentially, I put if it's not the selected square. So if I select this square, then now you notice this information changes, right? It shows the hunt, and it shows everything in this location, hunt in London. And by clicking on this, you can actually navigate to those things if they're clickable. If they're not clickable, it won't change anything here. If you check something like, for instance, let's go to an area that has a lot more stuff in it. So this has a couple of Portuguese um, cruisers, or I'm sorry, frigates. Has a convoy and it has a um, minesweeper. So any of these are selectable, right? So if I just select any one of them, it'll change to that guy. You'll now see the orders for that particular unit plus all the other stuff in the location. So what I was seeing is since I had this area, this over on this side, it was you were kind of having to go here, then go to there and click things if you wanted to click a different unit that was in the same hex. So what I decided to do was if it's in the hex of the thing that you're selecting, which is likely what you'd want to do, you'd want to click those. If you're highlighting over a different hex, then it shows that information on the right. Okay, so if I want to get to it easy, I could click on this, and now it brings it over here on this side, and you see that side goes away, the right side. So I make sure that I only really have it showing on one side. Kind of spreads it out. So it gives you a couple of things. You can now see what's in one particular hex, plus see things that are in another hex. Notice on the right, it shows what those things are in that hex. Okay, so what that allows you to do is when you're creating like task forces and stuff, it's kind of easy to do it now. So in deployment, I'll show you how easy it is to now add stuff to the uh, add things to the task force that's in that square. All right, so let's. I want to show you this new scenario and some of the new features that I've allowed. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the. I'm not sure you're going to be able to read it, but I'm going to bring up the rules, which now you can click through here. So in this scenario, essentially, you got I guess the main situation here is that um, World War III started, and the NATO's trying to bring stuff over to the to Europe, and the Soviets have sent out a bunch of subs. And these subs have three kind of missions. One is they're going to try to stop the U.S. convoys. They're also going to lay mines in NATO ports, and they're also going to try to land commandos in Ireland. Now, I didn't have any support for commandos, but I decided to add support for commandos purely in a simplistic way, right? Like so you have a marker that can get dropped to tell you that you dropped commandos, right? So similar to mines, for instance, I think we can. Um, so essentially, you're just going to get a marker when during the game if you deploy commandos. So in this particular scenario, the Russians have a bunch of port targets that they can. If they put mines in any port, then they get 10 victory points. If they land commandos in Ireland, then they'll get 5. Now the game's not going to say, well, you can only land commandos in Ireland. It'll allow you to land commandos anywhere where you're on a coastal hex. Okay. Um, but you as the gamer, right, and as the scorekeeper, you only keep score for things that the mission is allowing you to do, right? There's nothing stopping you from dropping mines anywhere. But you only get points for mines dropped in ports, or you should only award yourself victory points for mines that go in those ports, right? Again, the game doesn't enforce those kind of things, but I'm putting in some functionality so that you at least have the ability to deploy a marker, so it's really easy for you to tell if you did that particular victory point condition. Okay, so in this one, essentially, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see a little better what's going on here. And so essentially the setup is um, you got a ton of escort type ships strewn all about Europe. Okay, either in ports ready to go or in convoys that are en route. Okay, now, I went into the save file and I kind of made little notations on their names, which you could do as well if you're setting up a scenario. You can just go and update the actual label of these convoys. The reason why is these convoys are not like records that are actually in the main database. They're sort of temporary records that get created when you want to, right? They're unlimited, right? So as a result, you have a lot of control over like the name of it and things like that. But either way, I just did it so that you could follow the rules and see where everything's supposed to go. Like, so for instance, this is convoy B, and if we look at the rules say that for convoy type A, the primary is Antwerp and Ostende for 10 BP, secondary is Cherbourg and Portsmouth for 5. For convoy type B, primary is Cherbourg or Portsmouth with a secondary of Brest and Plymouth. Okay, so anyway, that allows you to identify where they're supposed to go. Now, the third fleet mission is on a very small map, and its border is like right around. It's like right here. It goes up here, and then it goes out like that. So it's essentially like a. So now that we're on like a combined map, I had to change a little bit of like objectives and things. So you have a couple of objectives out here, like this particular objective is in the Iberian zone, and this is a primary objective for, I believe, convoy type D, which starts up here. The convoy type D, if we look in the rules, convoy type D has a primary of Iberian zone and must cross the diagonal northwest to southeast line through the objective marker. Okay, so anyway, you guys are all smart. What does that mean? It means that if I want to get my MX points, convoy D needs to basically cross this objective, cross the northwest southeast line, right? So basically, you got to get past here somewhere, which kind of represents if the actual third fleet map, its end of the map went right here, and then it had a corner up here, and it went across like that. So here's another objective. This is the other objective for it, the secondary objective, which is past this objective. So, I mean, if you don't want to think about northwest, southeast lines or south or northeast, southwest lines, just say, hey, I need to get from D to here for a secondary, or I need to get from down here for the um, primary. Okay, and so it's a kind of a complex mission. There's a lot of convoys that are going around. The Soviets have they have a couple of um, they have a couple of here we go. They have a couple of victors that are already loaded with commandos, and notice I'm now giving you an option of in your setup. This is the only place you can actually load commandos. Then and actually during replenishment, if you go to port, you can actually load commandos as well. But it's just an option, right? Most people are just going to use uh, being that commandos actually don't have any purpose. They don't actually fight or take over things or things like that. They're purely a plot device. So, but I wanted to give you guys the ability to load things like mines or commandos. So notice this particular one already has commandos in it. Okay, and so if I remove the commandos, then it'll now say load commandos, exchange for one torp. Okay, so that basically means if you're going to load commandos on this Victor, you're going to give up one of your torp slots. Okay, and the game's smart enough to know, hey, does that thing even have enough torp slots? All right, so this thing it shows no torps yet because we haven't gone to deployment yet. It actually doesn't fill out ships with ammunition until you get into the deployment phase. But technically, as you can tell, it can hold up to 5. Thus, it could theoretically hold both mines and commandos. So since your mission as the Soviet subs is to lay mines and lay commandos, these two particular victors in specific, right? So I'm gonna put the commandos on this guy. Now it shows he's got commandos, and just for giggles, I'm going to load mines. Okay, so now he's got mines and commandos. Now, how do mines and commandos work? Okay, so um, I might explain this on a different video, but the way mines work is during the action segment. Well, depending on what you have your setting. So there's a strategic mining or strategic tack coordination. So for strategic mining, if you have this check, that means you do it just like the normal game would allow you to, which is during the strategic scenario, you could be in a hex that where you would essentially choose a location that's adjacent to you and deploy mines. So you could do it like that. I pretty much want my game a lot simpler. I like everything to happen into the actions segment, so I usually turn off strategic mining. And so what that means is we can use this as an example. So um, yeah, let's use an example to show you how it is. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so you can kind of get a better shot of how you actually deploy mines or not. Okay, so in the action segment, when you get to the point where uh, you are nearby. So these guys have to actually deploy them into ports. So here we have a port here, Londonderry's right here. So if the sub were to get right here per se, then during the action segment, you notice that it gives you like little indicators of where you can move. So what you do is you would drag them over to this, drag them onto this square. It would show like a destination marker right here. And as long as he hasn't moved yet that turn, and he has his destination pointed at a nearby location, because you don't want to set up mines in your own hex. So you have to set up mines outside your hex, because if you set up mines in your hex, the minute you try to leave your hex, you're going to almost get blown up by your mines, right? So you have to deploy mines in a nearby hex. So during the action segment, if this guy were here, you could drag him here, and then an option would pop up to say deploy mines. Okay. For commandos, he just has to be in a coastal hex. So he could be right here. And if he were here in the action phase, you'd see an option pop up here that says deploy commandos. And if you deploy commandos, it'll deploy a little lightning bolt kind of marker that represents commandos. It's just a simple mechanism for you to, for your, if you want to put that kind of element in your mission. Again, there's no functionality behind commandos other than the fact that you can deploy them and they take up room in your sub, so that you have to make choices. So, for instance, uh, the Russians have a total of a bunch of these subs. They have like what, 8 or 9 subs here that are part of the mission parameters, and these subs can be dispersed anywhere on the map at max of 2 in a particular zone. What their purpose is to either interdict shipping or to lay mines. Now, the rules out of the physical game say that only the nuclear subs can deploy mines, but that game also allows you to essentially deploy mines and have a full load of torps, and I don't allow you to do that. So I'm going to, since that's a detriment to the Soviet player, I'm going to give the Soviet player back an advantage to balance it, which is, as long as you got the room of torps on these guys, you can replace 3 torps on any one of these subs with mines. Okay? And then the goal would be that they would go up to a ship or go up to a port and be right outside of it and deploy their mine into the port. And then you'll get 10 points, actually 5 points, I believe, per mines that you do. Let's see, what's the rules say again? It says here, for each mine marker deployed on map 5, and for each commando marker deployed on map 10. So now you have to make kind of like a decision, right? If I load a sub with if I load with sub with mines, then I might make 5 points by deploying those mines in a port. But by loading lines, I lose 3 slots of torps, so that means I have less chance of killing things. Okay, so you got to kind of weigh that, which to me I think is a better approach to your gameplay, right? You kind of you're just not gonna be able to do everything all at once, right? So you either got a lot of torps or you're carrying mines. Okay, so that's how this particular scenario is set up. What else is of note here? I think through the physical game, it says don't use aircraft in anything um, but the strategic phase. I'm not going to restrict you for that. So in this particular game, I don't put that down as one of the rules. The only rules I do say are that the Akula has to be anywhere on the map. Um, the Soviet subs can be spread anywhere, max 2 per zone, 1 per hex. The Netherlands frigates have to be together within 4 hexes of Den Helder, and the French Cassard group together within 4 hexes of Brest. So I kind of put them down like here. I think this is the French stuff. This is the Dutch stuff. Right now, it's right outside of Den Helder, but you could set these guys up anywhere within 4 hexes of Den Helder. Same thing with the French Cassard group, which I believe is this one, right? Yeah, Cassard. So this group can be anywhere within 4 hexes of Brest. Okay, so um, let's see, what else do I want to talk about? So the next things I'm probably going to be working on. Um, I am noticing that when games last a long time, it's a possibility that I'm keeping references to temporary things that I should be getting rid of. I'm not garbage collecting the way I should. So I'm going to kind of do a cleanup of the back behind the scenes. Essentially, when you have like a lot of temp things like let's say you create a task force marker, or you create a activation group marker. Well, after those things are used, they should get thrown away. They're put into a spot called the recycle bin, and I remove them essentially from the save file, which is great. That works fantastic. The next time you load the game, it won't try to load that thing because it's not in its save file. But while you're playing the game, and if you keep your game up for like a few hours and stuff, I have to make sure that um, I'm getting rid of references to objects properly. And I've seen a couple of places where I can do that, so I'm planning on doing some fixes there. It's more of something you probably would never notice, but you may notice if you play the game for a long time, it might get a little slower as the game goes on. And I'm talking about like you probably you've done like 12 turns or something like that, all within one setting, and you haven't closed down the game. It might have that kind of effect. So I'm gonna clean that up. I'm also going to be doing new scenarios. Like I said, I'm going to be doing the rest of the large scenarios. Let's see, what else is there? Anything else? I think that's it. I think that's the big things. I think this location part here is pretty good. In fact, let me see if I can just show how nicely it works now that you got all the information like on in one spot. You can kind of go between ships and do orders and stuff. So it helps when you're doing things like setting up task forces and things. So let's go with all right. So let's just go into the deployment phase on this one. All right. All right. So the Soviets don't really have a task force to create because they don't have a single surface ship in the entire game. It's just subs. So what you could do now, you want to spread these things out, right? So you got this Polish uh, snorkeling sub. So I think it's a tango or a kilo. So I'm just gonna spread these guys out just for giggles. The game's not gonna yell at me if I don't, but but I just want to show you how easy it is to deploy these guys. So I'm just gonna kind of deploy no more than two um, per zone. Obviously, you probably want to put a little more thought into it than I am. Um, let's see, and I'm also gonna zoom out a little bit too. After I just zoomed in. Okay. So none of the destinations are in the Baltic, so you can pretty much ignore the Baltic. There's really no reason to put subs in the Baltic unless you want to kind of game the system. You guess you could put if you really want three in the North Sea, and you don't want to, you don't want to not listen to the rules. I guess what you could do is you could put one right on the border here, and then the first turn you move it in. So now you really got three in your North Zone. But I'm not going to tell you how to cheat. I'm sure you can figure that out as much as you want. But so let's see here. So yeah, these guys are all movable. So I'm just gonna go ahead and oh yeah, here's an Oscar. So he's kind of important. I probably want to put him in a really strategic spot. I don't know. I got really no clue. So I'm just gonna put him up here. Okay. All right. So we're gonna move on to the NATO side, so I can show you a little bit about how you can set up task forces and stuff and see how easy it is. Okay. So here we go. We got a convoy here. In this hex, you got some Dutch cruiser, I mean, three Dutch frigates and a Dutch destroyer and these fast convoys. I believe these guys are trying to get to where are the fast convoys. All fast convoys are trying to get to Borkum or Antwerp with a secondary of Liverpool or Rosyth. So if you chicken out, you don't want to, you could go right here to Liverpool or Rosyth. Oh no, Rosyth is around here. It's on the other side of the island. You'd have to go around here to Rosyth or down here to Liverpool. But if you want to get all your points, you can go to Borkum or Antwerp, I think it was. Which here's Borkum, and then I think Antwerp is right down here. Okay, so either way, I want to create a task force for these guys. I want to create a task force for all my guys. So what I'll do is it's right now showing the FC convoy, and I don't want him to be the first in the convoy. So I'll go ahead and pick the guy that I do want to be first, which is the DD Trump. So I'll do that. I'll say create TF. Now, who else do I want? Well, let's go with, I'm gonna do like, I'll do a frigate, then then I'll do a convoy, then I'll do a frigate, then I'll do a convoy. Finally, I'll do a frigate, and there you go. So easy peasy. So it makes it kind of easy to do that. You can kind of do it just by you having all the stuff that you want, and you can construct your task force like that. Um, let's see. I think that's about it. So I wanted to just do a short video. I wanted to let you know that a new version is up. I wanted you to know that a new scenario is added, which is kind of a cool one in the North Atlantic. My next plans are to create pretty much all of the strategic ones, all the big advanced scenarios for all the games. That's my next goal, and I'm planning on doing some cleanup of some code in the background. So if you find any other issues or bugs or features that you want me to add, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to do so. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys are enjoying the game. Thank you so much.